Good morning, and welcome back for another cup of Saturday morning coffee. I've got two big things that I've been thinking about all week. First up, how do people handle moving? And I mean like the normal people, the working class, right? My big thing that I think about moving, that I'm like, how do people handle it, is the holdover days. You know, the days between your lease ending and the lease for the next unit that you're moving into starting. Are people paying? Is it typical for people to pay two rents that last month? Like they're paying to move in the same month that their current lease ends. So like your lease ends first example like May 31st, and then you want the new lease to start May 1st, and so you've got that whole month to move and clean. Is that what normal people do? Because I don't know how anyone could do that. The cost of it, paying double rents. When you move into a place, you pay first and last month's rent plus the security deposit, which is, 50% to 100% cost of rent. So really you're paying like, what is that, four months of rent in one go? Is that what people are doing? Uh and God forbid you need to rent a truck to move too. That adds on to the cost, and most likely, vast majority of people do. And so I just I have never really asked people what they do. I have always been incredibly lucky in that I could just go crash at my mom's for the couple of days that it takes, because I've always lived close enough. And the longest I've ever had to wait in between apartments was like 3 or 4 days, I think. Either crashed at my mom's or I was traveling such a long distance that it wasn't a problem, and I just took my time moving in between. Like when I moved from Idaho to Texas. So I've always been lucky, but I just like I don't know what most people do. Like also never heard people talk about this issue, and so I'm genuinely curious because there's no apartment that's open the same day. You move out. You move out on 31st. New place usually isn't ready until the 5th. Because other people have moved out on the 31st, and then they gotta go in and deep clean the apartment and stuff. We're trying to plan for that right now, and I think this is the first time ever that I've even considered the option of doubling up rent. So paying for the first month of the new place and the same month that we're moving. And I'm kind of stressing it a little bit because it seems like an absurdly unsound financial practice, but it just makes so much more sense. And I I don't know. Now I'm just trying to figure out like what do most people do, and it's been on my mind all week. And more about moving, it feels like the vast majority of people don't like moving because of the packing. Like that's the part that people don't like. And I personally actually love the packing. I feel like my brain is just wired to work for that reorganizing, the cleaning, and the strategy, and fully packing up your apartments. I absolutely love it. It's like the easiest way to go through all of my stuff, and it's the easiest time to either throw it away or donate it or make final decisions about things that I've been holding on to for years. I go, oh my God, I didn't realize I still had this, right? And just like I said the last time I found it when I was packing. I mean, I love that motion so much because it's so freeing that sometimes I've even thought about just doing it and like going through the motion of it all just to perfectly and deeply go through everything. And I never actually have. I feel like that would just be an insane amount of work. But there have definitely been numerous times where I've sat there and thought, man, it would be really nice to just pack everything up and go into one room, and I could go through every item I own, and I could really just slim it down so far. So I love that part, the packing up and everything. I guess necessarily the moving it down 2 flights of stairs and up 2 flights of stairs kind of sucks. So that's the actual physical moving outside of the house. That part kind of ruins the experience for me. But I do love the strategy that goes into organizing everything into boxes that can be properly lifted and moved, and the game of Tetris as you try to stack everything together in the limited space you have. The other thing that's been on my mind a lot is planning our honeymoon. We have been so tired from planning everything with the wedding, and just, moving 7 days before the wedding, or at least our current apartment ending 7 days before the wedding. And all the other things of life. I'm so tired of planning that I am thinking about breaking my lifetime resistance to cruises. We're probably just gonna do that now. I have never liked the idea of a cruise because I really don't like the idea of not having the freedom of choice on an expensive vacation. Like, I want to be able to say, okay, we're gonna go to this neighboring town today, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go get this food. We're gonna go do that thing, and we're gonna love it. And it's the freedom of choice. And I feel like on the cruises, you are stuck on a boat, and you can do anything you want on this boat until we dock, and then you need to be back here in 8 hours. Otherwise, your ass is getting left behind on this island. And it's always stressed me out, and always dissuaded me from even looking into a cruise. But I'm honestly so tired of planning and trying to figure things out that it's looking like we're gonna pick a cruise. I've never wanted to do it, mostly for the reason I've already said, and but I think for our honeymoon we've decided that this might be just the smartest option given everything that we've been having to deal with. I and the reason I'm willing to break it and try it out this time is I kind of don't want that freedom of choice. I kind of just want them to tell us, okay, here's your options. Stay right here. You can go onto this island, and then I can go hop off and try some food at whatever local island that we're going to stop at, and then move on to the next. I just don't want to be in charge of making more plans. I don't want to deal with most likely going, if it was up to me and we were going to a foreign country, then the honeymoon would be, probably somewhere that doesn't primarily speak English. And I think at this point after the wedding, I'm going to be so tired that I don't want to deal with the extra work that comes in navigating a space in which I do not speak the primary language. I think I just want something super relaxing and easy to do it. Now we could stay domestic, but how many opportunities do we have like this to actually get a non-domestic trip, and that most likely is definitely going to go away in the next few years. Especially because I have a very strong personal rule that I don't want to be having kids after 35. So that gives me 5.5 years to have a kid, and so international travel will very quickly no longer be a possibility for a long time. So this is probably one of the last time, unless maybe Canada once or twice before then, but this will be probably the last opportunity to go international for a long time. So anyways, a cruise is going to work this time for me, for us, because I'm not going to have to deal with making any specific travel plans. I'm not going to have to sit down, make an agenda, and say, okay, we are going to go to this town. These are the restaurants that are options, and just detail out a schedule. I'm just going to say, we're going to hop on a boat, and wherever we go, and we'll figure it out, and no stress, which is not really something I'm great at, not stressing, especially on trips. Big planner, big planner. But I don't want to deal with it on the honeymoon anymore. So that's the decision I've come up with. And I've been thinking about this all week because I've had this lifelong aversion to the idea of cruises. They've always just struck me as dumb, I guess, because like I said, I don't want to pay a crap ton of money and then not be allowed to do what I want to do, which is go and see nature's beauty more than just a wide open sea for, 7 days. So, making a big change here, and we'll see how I feel about it once we're actually on that boat. I've got a song recommendation instead of a podcast recommendation this week. It's going to be Death Wish by Forces of Nature. It sounds like a hardcore metal song title. It's actually not. It's lo-fi beats. It's not as chill as you would expect from lo-fi, but it's a good, easy listen. If you have like a non-lyrical playlist, this would be a great addition to it. It's just nice and chill. Like I said, it sounds a little bit more hardcore, but I promise it's not. I'm realizing that it's getting harder. Like, I've pretty much ran through every podcast I've ever listened to and like also want to recommend, because there's plenty I've listened to that I'm like, maybe not recommend it. But there's only so many podcasts in existence, right? And podcast discovery is really not easy. Now, there's tools and websites out there to help with that, but organic podcast discovery is really incredibly hard because podcast players just suck at recommendations. So I would love to continue recommending podcasts, but I only want to recommend podcasts that I actually really enjoy, and finding them has been really hard. I don't want to do too many other songs because there are other podcasts that recommend songs, and I'm not trying to be a replication of them. I'm not trying to not steal their thunder, but I'm not trying to copycat, I guess. But it's kind of getting to that point where I don't really have a choice but to also either do 50-50 songs and podcasts, or like a podcast and then a couple songs and then a podcast, It's kind of like you don't really have much of a choice in the full landscape. It seems like there are just a ridiculous number of podcasts out in existence, but the truth is there actually is not that many podcasts, especially not that many active podcasts that are regularly producing episodes out, and not every podcast needs to always be producing episodes, right? There are plenty of audio dramas that released their story and then ended it, and there's something wonderful about that. But it's really hard to find more podcasts to share because there's just very few that actually make it out of the gate. So I'm going to continue looking for some new podcasts, trying to find some to recommend. It could take a little while because I have ran through about every recommendation and podcast I've ever even heard of at this point. So we'll see what I can find, see if there's something new to recommend. But for the meantime, I'm probably going to have songs for the next couple weeks. Anywho, thanks for joining me for another cup of coffee. I hope you have a great morning.